Welcome once again to The Lost Signals Discusses Games and Gaming Culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Welcome back, my friends, to The Lost Signals Discusses Games and Gaming Culture. And here at the very end, tail end of October, we are just around the corner from the launch of the next-gen consoles, which we covered a bit previously early in the summer, but now more information has come to light, and we're going to discuss that. I, of course, am your second-generation host, Scott Thurlow. I am here with Stephen Amosi.
Yep, I'm excited for this upgrade.
And upgrade yourself. And Dr. Professor Jonathan Ian Manzer.
I'm brand loyal, so this is a moot point.
Biased. So like I said, we did sort of a, I believe we called the episode like the knowledge we had or whatever at the time. So now, of course, it's as of the date of this recording, it's about 2 and change weeks before the actual consoles launch. So now new shit has come to light, if you will, etc. And we're going to just discuss a bit about it and maybe some other things here and there. But at least to start off with, let's get some sort of basic information out of the way in case you haven't known, or we'll do comparisons here. So first one will be price. The Xbox, so there are 2 versions of each console of each of the big companies' new gen shit. The Xbox Series S, which is the digital version only, no hard disk functionality that will be priced at $299, and then the X Series X that does have a disk drive will be $499, and then similarly the PS5 disc version will also be $499, but their digital version is $399. So there's a $100 difference there between the digital versions of each new gen console. So that's what they've finalized. That's what the price has been.
So, hold on, the Xbox ones, they're called the Series S and the Series X.
Yes,
2 different ones.
Yes.
So stupid. Sorry, I hate their names.
I'll get to that. We'll get to that. Like, we'll delve more into that. But that is what they're called, yes, buddy, and that is the price of them. So a couple other specs, so I was talking to you guys a little bit off cast because you are more knowledgeable about actual hardcore hardware and software and so forth. But at least I'll give you the storage specs on each. So PS will have 825 gigs of SSD storage drive space. The Series X hard drive one will have 1 terabyte. The Series S digital will have 512 gigabytes, and all of them will run a 16 gigs of RAM. Series S will run 10 gigs, everything else will run 16, and all will support 4K output, and also will be able to handle external storage. So if you need more, I know, I'm not saying that's great, kind of sucks, but at least you can get an add-on for extra storage. They will support that in some form, they've claimed.
I'm surprised because there seems to be a movement towards cloud storage with their...
now, I was going to mention that a little bit, but there is, but those the hard specs. Now, yes, the cloud storage thing is in the works. They're Microsoft particularly is working it out. But so let me just move on to the final, or the last of the initial things is backwards compatibility support. Now, PS5 will support almost all, only 10 to 20% of previous PS4 games will not be supported, and among those are very not what almost all the big shit, the known stuff will definitely be backwards compat, and it'll also support VR stuff. Both X series will support Xbox 360 and Xbox One games as well as the various accessories. So it's pretty somewhat even on that, pretty much, but they have at least hashed out and confirmed that that's the kind of backwards compatibility support there will be.
I wonder, just to
we got to think of all that.
Just to talk about the cloud storage thing for a second, I wonder if they aren't really pushing that right now, because you probably can't stream off of a cloud, like a cold storage cloud drive, right? Like you can off of a external hard drive.
Now, I believe, Steve-O, to answer just briefly before you go, Microsoft has been testing their Project Cloud, that's what they're calling it. They've been basically beta testing it here and there. But you're right, it hasn't been finalized. The full details has not been released, and the level of support that it's going to be hasn't also been detailed either.
Well, I accidentally bought PS Now, which turned out to be actually a decent purchase. But they offer game streaming directly through that service. I'm not able to do that because I live up in the mountains and don't have a good enough internet connection to stream. But they do offer, especially older games and like indie games. They'll allow you to stream directly from that.
Oh, I didn't even realize that they had that. That's interesting. I haven't upgraded to PS Now, but
it's like fundamentally in place, but it's not nowhere near like where many people think it's going to be or expect it to be down the line.
Yeah.
So I don't play multiplayer games, so PS Plus was nice for the 2 free games. I think PS Now offered me a bunch of free games. Like, that's where I got Hollow Knight from. I would never have bought that, but I got to play it and I enjoyed that. So,
and we will discuss that, like the basically PS Now library versus Game Pass. But so if this were a horse race, so you got like, oh man, the two favorites, two horses, they're neck and neck. Who's gonna win? And then, from behind.
It's not just Microsoft. It's not just PlayStation and Sony PlayStation. We are old favorites coming back. Atari VCS. Have you heard about this, Steven?
Thank God. I've heard about Atari trying to get back into the game. I haven't heard about this yet.
It's back, baby, and they're releasing it around the exact same time they're releasing PS5.
Really?
Yes, as a competitor. It's priced similarly. If you can look up the price, so because
I believe.
I'm trying
to remember. We looked it up.
I think it's 300 something.
Yeah, $299.
No, like
Okay.
$399.
Yes,
99. So it's $400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I looked it up. I was doing some research on it. It's halfway between a Raspberry Pi and a PlayStation 5.
In terms of power.
Why is it so expensive?
That's my big problem with it. But it looks interesting because they not only do they upload. Well, for those of you who don't know, it seems to be that it's attempting to be more of a computer device than necessarily the movement towards a game console.
Console, yeah.
So it's a Debian Linux operating system. Although I saw Ubuntu somewhere else, but I believe it's. But it also allows you to upload your own OS system on its PC section of it.
Interesting.
So benefit of streaming. They have all the old Atari games, but they're also developing unique games for themselves. I don't know how successful it's going to be, and I think it's way too overpriced. It might, if it was about 300, 250, 300, I might have been like, you know what, I might buy this for novelty's sake.
Yeah.
But there's that one thing is that I can get a Raspberry Pi and play Super Nintendo. I have the entire library of Super Nintendo on that. Play old school games, or I can play great AAA games on PS5. Why would I get something that's expensive and
it's neither one nor the other?
Apparently, it's going to have like a development system
kit, right? Yeah.
Develop new TV-based games and apps for yourself, your family, or to share with the Atari community.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And they do. I don't really see any games other than old Atari games listed on here.
No, they said that they're going to upload. They're going to have some unique. I actually looked into development. It's decent. Like 88% of the revenue from the games goes to the developer.
Yeah,
with a small cut
nice,
from.
It's laudable on that.
I just don't. I don't see this as anything but a novelty. I think it's too expensive to have attachment. But I just thought that. I just found that out today when I was doing research. I'm like, this is a neat little.
It was our pre-podcast research a little bit, and I didn't know about this. Or similar to you, Steve. Like I probably heard about it in passing. I was like, that's interesting, nice. But then we did some, a little bit more delving into it, and I could have sworn that the price was a little bit lower. But at that price point, and it's just, to me, it's just strange as hell that they're attempting it anyways. But apparently, it was funded on like Indiegogo, so like enough people threw enough money at it that were interested. But to me, it's like super niche, like you said. Like it's some weird bastard console between like the two things you just mentioned that might be neat to fuck around with if you get one.
Especially since they're throwing out the digital onlys for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be actually the main competition to Atari there.
Yeah.
Oh, so. Yeah.
No, agreed. But in case if any of you out there did not know, Atari is Player 3 has entered the game, if you will, and like they're trying to sell their new console and in the way as he broke down, like that's how they're marketing it. That's how it's supposed to be. Like they're looking at that functionality for it, like and the specs that it has. So again, it's like it's like some weird like combination of neither like the best of one or the other, but maybe decent enough. Like it'll run Steam games. I think we said if we.
I imagine that's how it's gonna run. It's basically running Steam on it or Epic Games or something
or whatever.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's an interesting thing of note for sure. In case anyone and we didn't quite ourselves, but it is technically going to be a new gen Atari console.
It has about the power and the specs of a mid-level computer.
No.
So it can't play even like high-end modern games.
It might not be handle like the most current AAA stuff, but it can handle like a bunch of range of things that you just said.
Although I like the wood paneling on it.
I mean, of course, they're retro throwbacking it. Like that's one of the selling points. Like maybe that's why you're paying a little extra because it has the wood paneling. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So I got a few things for this. I do like the look of it. I think it is cool. They're throwing in like a classic Atari joystick and like a modern controller as well, which is fun. Yep. But like that's definitely just a gimmick. What I don't love about it is the fact that they're not displaying any new games here. So it's not like, maybe they're going to have some, but like they're only showing.
They said that there was going to be remasters of old Atari games that they're doing as well.
Cool. But like, I would love to see some new stuff coming out if they're going to put forward a new.
I think that I saw some video footage of kind of modern day. Again, even the press thing was really
a little odd. Yeah, for sure.
But I actually think it's the nicest design of all the three consoles.
Oh, I agree with that for sure. And they also, just as a matter of course, they have a Black Lives Matter banner up at the top of their site, so that's cool.
Well, good on them for that for sure. It's a positive thing.
All right, so
yeah, just in case you didn't know, Atari again is throwing out their new version of some weird Frankenstein's monster of consoles that's supposed to run whatever. It's like, what they're saying, like they're specifically or designing it to run. And I thought like the one final thing about it is like, perhaps it's, they're almost like maybe banking on the fan community to like create more games for it that you can then run on new Atari games as you
ask Bethesda how that worked out.
Yeah.
That's never a good idea.
But I mean, like, it's not their like number one thing, but I think they are thinking that might happen or be the case to some degree. So anyway, yeah. So there you go. So you got
I'm betting on Atari. All in.
Yeah. You got the two huge nations clashing, and some like third like parties like, I'm here too. Like I showed up to the fight.
It's the Dreamcast of this generation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, so there's that. So those are mainly the specs and the prices and so forth. So I wanted to move on to what might be the most interesting part to me is so far, again, as of this moment, as of this recording, who is winning the PR campaign / optics on the new gen, specifically between Microsoft and Sony. So in case also you haven't known, didn't see, when pre-order things started, this is about mid to late September at this point, so about a month back, they announced, they're like, okay, pre-orders are opening up for the new console soon. Like, so Sony bungled it. There was this big weird debacle where the dates and times weren't even clear about when you were supposed to pre-order and where and how, etc.
Oh, I signed up for the pre-order thing that never went through.
Yeah, so they had like a fucking lottery contest as well, like through their shit. But just in general, like they tweeted like not misleading, but like confusing and conflicting information. So people weren't sure like when and how to get one. So like that looked bad. People were like, what the fuck, Sony, like etc. And then shortly after that, now Microsoft's the pre-orders for Xbox like went okay. Like in theory they were available. However, to go back to the point you raised earlier, Steve-O, because of naming convention is fucking dumbass. I agree. Whoever is in charge of naming their consoles has to evaluate their approach here. People started pre-ordering, like, I get it, like probably people's parents, right? If you're like 15 to say like teenager, an adolescent right now, your grandmother, your aunt, your parents are trying to pre-order your what do you want for Christmas, Billy? Jenny, I want the new Xbox. Like, okay. They started pre-ordering like pre-orders for Xbox One, which of course is the current / gen, like spiked like hugely because it was very confusing for people, especially if you don't know, if you're not like knowledgeable enough about it, if you're not like a nerd / gamer. I get it because of the very fact they're confusing. So might be the case where a bunch of disappointed children will open up their new gifts on Christmas and be like, what the hell is this? Like, I already have this. Right? So, like, that was happening. Like, it was enough that, like, started trending. Like, people are noticing, like, the sales of Xbox Ones are spiking. What the fuck? Oh, it's coinciding with the pre-order, like, release, like, whatever. So I thought that was funny. So in general, the impressions also, a couple of, I guess, influencers, I'll say, I follow that are, like, I respect and who know their shit about games. They obviously were sent, like, you know, an early console, like, free to give the impressions. So as far as I can tell, the Xbox, actually both, seem to be performing and functioning pretty well, except for one minor thing, which I thought was funny as well. By and large, they run well. The load times are great. Like, you know, noticeably faster. Like, not much like downtime, etc. Like, everything looking pretty good, except some impressions about the hard disk Series X were like kind of running a little hot. Like, getting a little. The fan's a little hotter than maybe like we think that's like safe, or like not safe per se, but like just unexpectedly like seems a little warm over there, which of course like invokes the dreaded red ring of death thing that happened on 360. But not like so far, I have not found any instances of like constant that blew up or like overheated.
See, I do think it's going to be a problem though in the future, because Xbox S, the digital only version of that, is cheaper because they're using less powerful parts. And I do think eventually, with the ability of the PS5 and the Xbox X to handle much, you can handle a lot more on those. I think the S might be outdated prior to.
I mean, it's possible. Like, certainly, like to comment on that. Like, yeah, in theory, like the Series S digital is like slightly already like a little bit.
Its ceiling is much lower than the rest of these.
Exactly. So like you're right, that might be a concern, certainly because of the facts and the specs that we have. But so speaking of fan things, I actually found this interesting and I didn't know about it. So this is for PS5. Now, there was a interview done with it was their VP of mechanical design, and his name is Yoshiro Otori. And he stated, quote, that, so speaking of the PS5's internal fan specifically, that it will be optimized via ongoing updates. So, quote from him, various games will be released in the future, and data on the APU's behavior in each game will be collected. We have a plan to optimize the fan control based on the data. So, like, in theory, they're, like, sort of, like, matching it to what, like, if a game was running at a higher resolution or whatever, right? Or versus like maybe a smaller indie title doesn't require as much processing, thus like sort of turning down the fan speed or whatever, like based on whatever game is there at the time, and they're like tweaking it throughout.
I was shocked that this hasn't been developed before.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it hasn't. Yeah, because you know, like certainly, it seems like a lot of times if you're playing on an older PlayStation or something, and you're playing a game that uses
my PS4 sounds like a motherfucking jet engine nowadays.
The fan sounds a lot louder when you're using it on something that's like using a lot of its power. So I think it may be something that like they've done to an extent, but they're not like collecting user data. They just like change it per game or like however much CPU they.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
A little bit of machine learning going into fan speeds.
Yeah, there you go. But like, for example, Steve, like since we're playing the Doom DLC right now, like when I'm running Doom, it sounds like my PS4 might about to be bursting. Now, when I'm running like a small indie game, that's not the case.
Yeah,
they should just do liquid cooling in all of their consoles.
Sure, and then you have to pay $2,000 per console or whatever.
That's why I splash water on all my consoles.
That's a good. Yeah, do that for sure. That's a good solution. But no, so like that's some of the bigger stuff. So I'm saying impression good on each. Given the limited releases that they were giving out to people who are like essentially influencers and stuff who know their shit, like I said. So the next thing I want to move on to is how they're doing next gen upgrades, like either cross gen or across the spectrum of course you've got your EAs and 2Ks. First of all, being like, oh, some next gen games are going to cost $70 instead of $60. We have to increase go fuck yourselves. Like it's. Just standard shady shit that you, of course, like using that as an excuse.
You hear about the 2K thing they put in commercials and
Yes,
stuff like that?
I did hear about that. I wasn't going to mention it on air today, but I did hear about it. Yes, but I mean, it's par for the course for them. They're like, oh, new gen is the new standard is gonna be an extra $10, $70, because that's us. And other companies like, nah, sure, you can try that, but we're not, right? I mean, again, it's a scale. So, for example, CD Projekt Red, for let's say I'm going to get a PS4 version of Cyberpunk. They are offering everyone who gets that when you switch over to next gen, just completely free. You upgrade your version to the next gen stuff. No, no extra bullshit, no whatever. You just, as long as you have a copy of the old game, of this gen's game version, then boom, they'll upgrade you.
Actually, digital releases should make that much simpler because the minute you buy a new console, you can just easily swap over the data, save data.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
so obviously it's doable, and probably easy enough on the dev's end, right? It just depends what studio is going to be an asshole about it or not. Now I got one for you. This one I thought was funny but sad in a sense. So Control, I like that game quite a bit. It came out last August. Now they said this is a specific circumstance, but they're like, okay, for next gen, you have to buy a new digital, a new deluxe version of it. It's basically the same content. There's nothing new about it, but they're saying, oh, we can only do it this way, right? People are like, all right. And then it got even worse because when people want to do it, some people, there were certain users who found out that when buying the current gen version of Control digitally, they accidentally, they could see it on their consoles that there was basically an upgrade button enabled. It was there. They accidentally sort of showed it off. Oh shit, we should have shut that off. People and so it was, of course, the internet is the internet. They screenshot it everywhere, and look, you can do it obviously easily. It's there, right? So, it just made them look so stupid and absolute liars. So I'm just saying, there's a scale in which again, some studios developers are all right, yep, boom, next gen, you got you all good. For example, so we'll go back to Game Pass and PS Now. Microsoft has, first of all, the Game Pass library is maybe a selling point for me, not maybe, is going to be a big selling point for me to get at least the digital X Series S, because Game Pass is such a good value. I've been looking into it, right? They have such a big library.
I'm just saying, when you complain that it's melted 5 years from now,
Sure.
remember the video where I told you it's going to.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's a possibility for sure. But what I am saying here is that the Game Pass library is pretty, it looks really good. So, and on top of that, of course, recently as well, Microsoft bought Bethesda, which is a big deal, and they own a bunch of other studios that are under their banner now that I also like Exile, Obsidian, and so forth, right? So I'm just saying the Game Pass value is quite good, and that also, in theory, you will get, even right now, let's say we're on any of us is on Game Pass now, you will also be offered, by and large, to a large degree, a large percentage, free, upgrade your version of whatever game when you switch over to the next gen stuff via Game Pass. And that also ties in a bit, Steve, to the cloud thing, which they're, like I said, they're still working on it, still kind of testing it, but that is their vision, to also be able to stream you the games via that as well. PS Now also, as you mentioned, is trying to extend their library, trying to somewhat ramp it up to compete with Game Pass.
What's fascinating is how many old PS3 games are, and I think PS2 games even, are available for streaming on now, as of right now. Again, I can't stream because but for the stuff I can download through now, I'm very pleased with it.
So yeah, I'm just saying, the digital sphere, of course, has been and is I would say only will continue to get much bigger, and much more focused on. But because they can deliver it to you now, and I think that might be the next battleground, really. Overall, based on everything I just said, and what we know right now, 2 weeks before launch, they're pretty dead even. It's pretty close between last gen. To me, it was clear that Sony had made the superior console, equipment, and that's why I switched over from. I was Microsoft loyal for a long time, during the 360 era, switched over to PS4. Now I probably will get both, to be honest with you guys. So digital one, hard disk other. But I'm saying, just looking at it on paper, it seems like they're pretty close. Well, yeah.
Mhm.
Aside from like the PR debacle of the optics on that, the actual, what they're offering and price wise, etc., all that stuff. Like I said, it's kind of like a close horse race,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how I feel. You guys like, what do you think about it?
You know who really wins? The fans.
Although, unless there's exclusives, which I'm going to get.
Yeah,
to
which there's going to be a bunch of exclusives actually. So maybe the fans lose,
Well, it depends.
unless
What
they're
I'm
willing
saying,
to
like-
spend a lot of money.
That's why you had to be PC Master Race.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, PC Uber Alice. Yes, but no. So I guess maybe that's enough of a segue to give you guys at least an overview of like the launch titles, right?
Mhm.
So, speaking, as I just mentioned, Microsoft bought Bethesda, etc. But it seems like, of course, there will be exclusives still, but they will be like less of a stranglehold, if that makes sense, right? So, for example, I got one for you.
Then this generation,
Yes.
it's like they're getting more of a stranglehold.
Well, it depends. Like I said, it might be more case by case, rather just brought like for sure X, Y, and Z, franchises, IPs owned by whatever one respectively will never come out to the other.
Right.
That might not necessarily be the case.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It might be more like timed exclusives, as we're getting at, right? So like, okay, Microsoft, Bethesda puts out whatever they're going to put out next, and Microsoft gets to have it for a year, but then of course they still want your money. So like if they release a version of it for PS4, now conversely, for example, some of the big PS4 launch titles are going to be Spider-Man, Miles Morales, right? Other shit, the Demon's Souls remaster and shit like that. A few others like Godfall is their one supposed to be like their big like launch title like selling point. That stuff will probably always be exclusive, but that's I'm saying more of a narrow like range at this point.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and for example, one of the funniest things I'll have to mention here. So of course, Halo Infinite. Halo is one of the big Microsoft Xbox IPs. It got shown off, and people like a little lukewarm, like, really? That's a next gen game. It's not looking. I don't know. So they're like, all right. So they fucking had to delay their flagship like entry franchise. Like, it's not going to be a launch title. It's going to come out like much later
Nice.
after launch. I thought that was like super funny, like ridiculous, but par for the course. But no, of course, like, but there is a lot of crossover. So big titles like AC Valhalla, Call of Duty, of course, Immortals, Outriders, Watch Dogs, all of EA's asshole sports output. All that shit, of course, is going to be cross console, cross company. There's nothing within that will be exclusive to either.
You know, it'd be a real coup if Atari gets the ability to get all the exclusives, because and then it just becomes don't want to choose between PlayStation and Xbox, join Atari.
Super hilarious, indeed, if that were unfolds as the case.
Might have to upgrade their hardware.
Now you have to buy fucking 3 consoles or whatever. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, so yeah. And this episode will even release a little bit later than the actual, of course, the date that we're recording this. So it'll be like pretty close. So I'm very sort of like, how should I describe it? Like in the back, I'm like, let's see how it goes, because I'm gonna personally wait to get each. Like I'm planning to get one of each, right? But not necessarily on launch even this year. Like I might wait till early next year, like Q1 of 2021, just to see how it takes down, in case there is some red ring of death, in case there is some like fan issues or whatever, right? The worst scenario would be like you buy one and then it fucking explodes or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you never want that to happen. And I'm saying it's not necessarily with outside the realm of likelihood or possibility here. But I am saying that like they both do look quite good, and in terms of support, hardware, etc., library, and price is decent enough. Like it's not unexpected that it would be that, and it's pretty much within range of what just when this gen launched and so forth. So
I kind of wait for the point that happens in every generation where they stop making games for the previous generation.
Yeah.
And it goes up. So I think I got the PS4 when Fallout 4 came out. And then, but so like, for instance, you mentioned we have a bunch that are going to be PS4 and PS5.
Yep.
I'm going to, wait until that, like after a year or so, they start making exclusives.
Like, okay, yeah. No, I mean, and sure, like that makes sense. It's a certainly fine plan. And the thing is, you always have to do that. For example, the one that comes to mind, now that you mentioned that, is that one of my favorite, perhaps my favorite AC, Black Flag, was also cross-gen. So I have a copy of that for 360. That was right when PS4 and X1 were launching as well. So yeah, you're right. They had to make versions for each, and certainly you assume that the one version is superior in a way, at least runs better, looks better, etc., than the other one. But yeah, so like, I mean, I like that plan. That's pretty good. What's your plan, Steve? Like, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit for sure. And I may end up getting both of them in some form, but I'm probably gonna wait a while for the Xbox, like a year or two for the Xbox. Like PS5, I'll probably wait until early-ish next year and then jump on it if it looks like it's going well. But yeah,
I hear you. Like I'm saying, I gotta say, just I'll read it quickly. Like we have a couple other friends of ours who have been more Microsoft loyal, if you will, have talked up Game Pass a lot. And as I've researched it for this episode and just for my own edification in general, it does look quite good. And that's probably like the biggest selling point for me. But I'm certainly still going to get PS as well. Just that now,
don't sleep on now.
Now in my old man age, I can finally the console wars are over in my mind because I can finally have both of the big ones, and then maybe let's see how Atari shakes down. Like maybe I'll pick that shit up too, like down the line or whatever. Depending, like if it's well received.
I'm gonna manufacture this hill to die.
I like that. I do like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that's how it's looking. Again, those are the specs. Those are like the overarching breakdowns, launch titles, etc., and like what certain developers and studios have said how they're going to unfold the next gen process and so forth. So yeah, I mean, maybe if anyone out there gives a shit and wants to drop us a comment, like let us know what you think or what your plan is. But for now, like that's basically the broad stuff, and that's how I've been looking at it. So yeah.
You know what we should do for next season?
Yeah.
Of games and video games. We should all split an Atari and just like bring it back every week, and
sure,
next person gets it.
I'm okay with that. You want to do that? Let's officially decide that on air right now. We'll try to do that.
Actually, yeah, that sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Rock on.
Like $120 each, sure.
Very nice. But yeah, so I guess we'll see. Like again, it's right around the corner. I'm super interested to see how it shakes down, especially like maybe there might be some big debacle of people actually getting shipped their pre-orders if they pre-ordered the right shit anyways.
Yeah.
Because of again unhelpful naming conventions, we'll call them, or just if Sony's able to on their side ship out the actual units that were pre-ordered that whoever could get to them. So yeah. So I think I mean, you guys have anything else to add or forgot for new gen? Like I think that will
pretty much covers it. Yeah.
Yeah, this episode should drop about again like maybe a week, maybe 10 days before the actual launch window or launch day of the new gen shit, and then we'll see what happens from there.
All right, hold on. I do have one last thing. Question: which company is going to have the major fuck up first?
Now, see, I would bet Microsoft because history says to bet on them, but maybe like you might maybe
who's gonna melt the first? Hardware.
You might maybe second guess myself because if Sony's fucking around with the fan speed, like, oh shit, we like updated it wrong, and like the fan just explodes or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. My money's always gonna be on Microsoft for that question, but
it's close. It's like 2-1 and a 1 to 1.5 or something to me at that point. Yeah. But I mean, hopefully that isn't the case. But if one were,
it's certainly the case.
Somebody's gonna fuck up.
Yeah. No, you're right. I guess my money would be generally in Microsoft to like have something like stupidly ridiculous like that with their console. But it'd be nice if that wasn't the case. So I don't know.
Find out.
All right, boys. I think that'll do it. We, of course, remain old gen and only getting older gen, really. I have been Scott Thurlow, here with Stephen Amosi.
Yeah, I'm running out of memory, guys.
And Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Atari appeals to my hipster nerddom.
Of course it does. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. Game on. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.